might rub you the wrong way, but please just hear me out. Gotta keep it 100, right? Cause that's what this Kai about. Aim to see them out cool. I can't afford to be without nothing but dogs and liars out there. That ain't my type of crowd. Live this life to seek his clout. Lead this life seeking this cloud. Recollection, connection to him, the force within my love. Inner workings, his purpose. Allow myself to hear his call. Review his verses, rehearse them within the rhythm of my walk. Perfect cadence, his favor gain, so I flourish and abound. No Kyrie, he cutting down. He little pruner, ask the uni coming soon. So much to do, so little time. Procrastinated, marinated in hatred. Your not many gracious. My lucky been a Jacob. I should have been the one consumed. Yet another you, my live street for the one who brought me. Lottie dottie, we party, blow some hemp and grow Muadi. Death the life for hot my Aki. Come and fight for life, we grinding. Hold on.
Yo, what up? It's your boy Big Cookie.
It's your boy Big Bree.
Hey, yo, this is Jay Rich.
And we the future. And you listening to ZMR Radio.
In the wake of the death of Tyree Nichols, the question arises, yet again, with police brutality, is it really targeted? Do quote-unquote blacks or so-called blacks suffer from it more than other nationalities? Well, hello, howdy, how do you do? This is your Akuth Wisdom Simone, and welcome to my Candid Wisdom. On this live edition, please join me for a moment of silence for those lost to police brutality and injustices throughout the world. Welcome. Thank you. Another episode of My Candid Wisdom, where we review the world that we live in. Today, we're taking a break from our top 10 mental illnesses and examine another aspect that definitely has an impact on mental illness if you're melanated. Even otherwise, really. I don't really see how situations like this, if you are a reasonably fair person, I don't see how situations like this could not affect you in some way and cause you to just stop and consider the world that you live in and how changes can be made. In this situation, I've heard a lot of praises. At the first, the idea was like, oh, it's 5 black men, so yeah, y'all would move quick when it came to 5 black men, right? But outside of that, as time progressed and we find more officers being arrested, more people being held accountable for the situation itself, other perspectives have been presented and I've had the opportunity to hear. And then also for myself, I wanted to know, because I have seen statistics where it looked as if maybe the melanated crowd was kind of vain, like it really wasn't as bad as it was projected to be in the media. So I wanted to look for myself. I wanted to see what the statistics were, who police brutality affected, and just the progression of it as time has went on. I had an opportunity to watch an interview with the mother and father of Tyree Nichols, and what she said was, although this was a difficult situation for her, she feels like her son was born for this reason. She feels like her son was born to show that action can be taken. Whereas in times past, there's always the drag out of, first of all, we don't even know what happens. We don't find out that people died until I think it would probably be like a year. In some kind of way, a dash cam got out or a body cam got out or somebody said something and that warranted attention to the situation at that time, even though it had long passed, and even though everyone could plainly see that, um, even though everyone could plainly see that it was obviously a situation that was handled incorrectly, or that someone acted in a way that they should not have acted. Um, there's always we have to investigate, but in this situation there was none of that. In less than a month, not only was it found that what they did was completely out of the way, but you have charges brought up. um some of them have been arrested. I'm sure all of them have been arrested, but I'm not sure. I know I heard at least one of them caught bail or something to that effect. But what her and the attorney Crumb, who is like the general attorney for these type of situations, which is like a whole nother episode about how I feel toward that. But both of them were saying that the tragedy of the situation um, was that, first of all, it happened, but they didn't feel like the police chief had anything to do with it, and that the police chief acted accordingly, and that her example of acting so fast proved that in all the times past, um, the same thing could have occurred. And what the mother said is she's not really sure why it didn't happen in other cases. Um, so yeah, I wanted to look into it more. As far as statistics, that's what we do here. We have an opinion about something and we go and we look at facts and see if our opinions line up with facts. So according to let's see, policeviolencereport.org, this is a group, they do obviously studies on police violence. When it comes to 2022, a total of 1,192 people were killed by the police. Now, this is the most people that have been killed by the police within the last decade. Now, it looks like within the decade it kind of fluctuated up and down, but for at least the last, let's see, in 2020, it was 1,155. In 21, it was 1,147. So it kind of goes up and down, with the lowest number being 1,065 in 2016. Now, 97% of those individuals killed by police were shot. The rest were killed by taser, physical force, or police vehicle. Now, when I saw this, of course, 97% they've been shot, so we're going to see that more often. But I never thought about the fact that police officers run over people. What I did see previous was more so uh police negligence. And this woman didn't die, but she was handcuffed in the back of a police truck or a police car that he mindlessly left parked on railroad tracks with a train coming. And this lady gets hit in his car, handcuffed by a train. I hadn't recently looked to follow up on that story. If anybody knows anything follow up wise or is familiar with that case, definitely drop some feedback in the chat. Just things of that nature. That's what the totality of police killings are. 97% shootings, and then the other, what's that, 3% tasers, physical force, and police vehicles. Now, of all of these people killed by police, right? I'm still here. Only 9 cases were charged. That is 1% of all police killings. Only 9 cases out of 1,192 people killed by police were charged. Now, where I think these statistics get very interesting is because although a lot of people will say the reason that action was so fast was because these officers were melanated individuals, what is the melanated woman's role in this whole thing? Now, there was a guy earlier, I forgot his name. He is kind of catching wind on the internet because he says that the reason for this young man's death is single Black women. He said that everyone in that situation exhibited behaviors of being raised by a single Black woman. He cited that being a problem because he said that these now men were raised in situations that did not allow them exposure to male authority. So with that lack of male authority, they were not properly equipped to act as reasonable men themselves. Of course, this started an outrage. I myself, first hearing it, felt some kind of way because I have this thing, right? I feel like as melanated individuals, we have enough divide. We have enough things that we have to fight in the world, including racism. We have to fight and figure out how to navigate through a system that was made to noose us. So I don't particularly uh, revel in situations where something is brought up and it feels like we're kind of having like a civil war within our own nation. So I know it's someone, and later on I'll open up the line for callers. I definitely would like for them to call in that actually talked to this guy. And they allowed me to see the conversation, and he's a pretty reasonable guy. They explained their position to him because they are themselves a single quote unquote Black mother, and he completely agreed. And he just said that for the most part, when it came to a quote unquote Black man coming to a quote unquote Black woman to try to, I guess, voice his grievance, it came off as an attack. And not to digress, but I feel the reverse as well. And maybe we can talk about that during another show if we can find some facts to support our opinions. But what is interesting and how that ties to police brutality as a whole, when it comes to officers that are charged for police brutality, right? Now, remember, in order to bring charges, you have to have a prosecutor. That prosecutor has to have valid evidence to be able to take to a judge and say, hey, we need to charge these people for what they did. They need to be held accountable for their actions. Now, first of all, in the United States of America, of all elected prosecutors, 1% are quote unquote Black women. In the entire United States, 1% of elected prosecutors are melanated, quote unquote, Black women. But get this, they make up for 19% of prosecutors that deal with police shootings. They're 11% of the prosecutors that convict the officers. And it's, to me, that's like crazy. How is the 1%, the majority, seemingly, the majority of prosecutors, of course, are going to be white men, holding 72% overall. But outside of that, second after is going to be the Black woman. Now, this is interesting because of the whole structure of the system and general conversations I hear about it as far as who has power, who can pull strings, who does all the shaking and the moving, right? So, of course, hands down, anybody you ask on the street, in the house, wherever you at, everybody know this country is the white man's plan. This is his stuff set up for him, by him. It is just plain that, right? But it's also been said that the quote unquote black woman has been set up as a pawn against her man. That being done by the quote unquote white man. He puts her into a position that persuades her that she's better in the position that he would put her in versus the position that she can build her man to put her in, or her man himself can put her in. So it's interesting that she also is second rank and holds authority in this situation. And what's going on with the black men prosecutors? What's going on with black male prosecutors? They also are another 1% of overall elected officials when it comes to prosecutors, right? Very small percentage when it comes to convicting officers. They're only 3% of charging prosecutors when it comes to police brutality. Now, we mentioned earlier that, excuse me, 97% of killings were shootings. 306 of these cases were were in this 2022 police violence report. And of those 306 cases that they reviewed individually, where they were able to find information that they needed, 22 of those officers had already shot someone before. Of the 22 that had already shot someone before, 8 of those had been in multiple shootings. If anybody's out there and you understand the process, disciplinary action, what's the procedure? Not funny, but kind of funny. When I said what's the procedure, what came to mind is set it off. What's the procedure when you have a gun in your face? What's the procedure when you have a rogue officer that's trigger happy and shooting people? 22 officers, 8 of them had already shot multiple individuals, not a one-time occurrence. Oops, this is justified, whatever that's 8 multiple times. Most of these individuals were in this situation because they were investigating non-violent offenses or no crime was committed at all, and 86 of them killed during a traffic stop. Now, what was it? Forgive my memory. During Sandra Bland times, there were quite a few traffic stops. We had Philando Castile, where officers were just geeked up, whatever the situation was, hyped up off authority. I couldn't tell you, but just trigger happy, and really wanting to assert themselves more than they should have with shootings. Unarmed individuals seemingly were being killed at alarming rates with no explanation. In the report of 2022, of all the people killed by police, 100 of those individuals were unarmed. Only 702 of those individuals actually had guns, but a lot of them were in non-threatening positions. So these were not positions where the individual was pointing the gun at someone or posing an immediate threat toward the person or anyone around them. They just happened to have a gun. So there were opportunities and situations to de-escalate the situation outside of fatality. A clear example of, and let me preface this by saying, although just as if you worked a job, I remember I worked at Bank of America, This is the first place I can remember that ever like really, really was serious about their brand and their likeness and things of that nature. And they made it a habit to remind us, hey, remember, when you leave the building, you still have on your badge, you are still branded with Bank of America. So anything you do will be directly accredited to Bank of America, and you will be fired if it's a situation that makes us look bad. I say all that to say that although it's very obvious, we have officers around the country that need some correction. Um, there are many officers that don't get the light and shine that they should, that do what they should do and go above and beyond. I saw one, it was a while ago. She was I guess she was just driving by, and there was a little girl in the park, and she noticed when she drove by that this little girl got absolutely hysterical. The little girl was so scared, and it bothered her so much that she stopped. And she got out of the car and she asked the baby, she's like, "Why are you crying?" And she said, well, something along the lines of, like, "I thought you were going to shoot me." So it's sad to me for that to be the image that's projected. Because when we were kids, it was like, find a safe place, and you could, an officer is a safe person that you could go to. And now that's not really what you're teaching your kids. I've spoken of Sean in the Make Me Stronger episode. Sean was a kid that was one of my babies, and he recently took his own life. But he actually did a news report about him and his mother, about how to deal with police, because the situation was so much and it was projected in the media so much. Of course, young melanated boys and girls, they're like, okay, I thought the police were good, but they're killing everybody. So, like, what do we do? I say all of that to say there are some that know restraint. So with the 702 individuals that had guns, when I say there were other opportunities of de-escalation, take for instance in Florida, you have, I believe they were 12 and 13, broke in someone's house and got rifles. Okay. Now all of the traffic stops, anything that I've seen for the most part, that's big media, because I in times past used to watch dash cam stuff. So if you go on YouTube and just sit and watch dash cam videos, you look at police shootings a little different. It just gives you a whole different perspective. I used to watch the dash cam videos and listen to the 911 calls. But as far as what's publicly projected, usually it's a handgun. These kids had automatic rifles. Not only did they have them, they were shooting them. These officers were not engaging them. They were strategizing because they saw value in the lives of these children, because they were children, despite the fact they had freaking assault rifles and didn't give a flying flip blank about their lives, their own nor the officers. But in situations like these, like I said, some of these are initiated when officers are called to the scene of nonviolent offenses. We've definitely heard about the situations with mental health checks where an individual is they have a problem. All right, 109 of those individuals, mental health and welfare checks, killed by the police. The police were called to save these people, help these people, and they ended up dying because whatever was going on with that police officer, whatever deficit that police officer had, they didn't necessarily know how to handle that individual. They didn't understand that individual's behavior. I've seen a few mental health wellness check calls that went bad. Some situations, the officers generally, if you're a person that has that type of mental illness to the point that is disruptive, of course you're known in your area. I'm sure the police deal with you on a regular basis. So not really understanding like why there isn't, or if there is and is just not being adhered to, a specific training just for those type of calls. I think those type of calls should definitely be dealt with differently than others definitely want to protect the lives of the officers. Not saying send them out there willy-nilly and just whatever, but not be so quick to take a life. Value every life the way you value the lives of the 12 and 13-year-old shooting full-fledged assault rifles at you, right? Also, of the police shootings and killings, 58 of those individuals that were killed were in a vehicle, and that was the reason that they were killed. 52 in the vehicle category were killed when an officer decided to shoot at the moving car. Now, this is a very, very controversial tactic. A lot of people feel like it's ineffective. And the reason they feel that it's ineffective is because if the officer is successful in killing the driver, the vehicle now becomes an uncontrolled hazard. If there's no tree or anything to that effect to stop the car, you now have a car with a dead person's foot on the gas, uncontrollably gone. However, officers have voiced that, and I can agree to an extent, a vehicle is still a weapon because you can run me over. My suggestion, just get out the way. Get out of the way. Get in your car, chase them. If they get away, you'll both live to see another day. But I don't necessarily agree with that method either. Not only because if you hit the driver, you now have an uncontrolled vehicle flying into wherever. But where are all of these bullets going that you just recklessly shooting into wherever? Now, I mentioned that 702 individuals that were killed by police had guns. 211 of those individuals sharp weapons or knives. Now, what's very interesting about this weapon, nonetheless, and I've also seen videos where the one that comes to mind immediately, I can't remember the man's name. He did get killed. It was a Caucasian guy, not melanated. He was on a mission of death by cop, suicide by cop. He was successful in his mission. But the thing about it is, the entire time he was running at the officer with a knife, the officer was begging him by name to stop, telling him he didn't want to shoot him. It's very, I'll say it's so much more likely for you to find a police shooting of compassion. When I say that, I mean you can clearly tell that the officer is like at the end of their rope, and they really don't want to kill the person that they're sent to subdue or sent to check on or whatever the situation is, but they just have to do that. In all of the dash cam, police body cam, all those videos I ever watched before police shootings and things of that nature got to, I guess I would say, the engulfment that it is now, even though this has been going on for years, like 60s, 50s, 70s, you name it, we've been getting drugged, shot, disrespected, discarded just for our lifetime of being here. But as far as the media pumping it up, um, yeah, it's just crazy. But interestingly enough, the United Kingdom has a population of 67 million people. Their knife attack rates are very similar to those of the United States. How many people, this is a live show, right? I want y'all to tell me how many people in the year of 2022 do you believe were killed in the United Kingdom by police shooting? I'll give y'all some time to do that. How many people in the United Kingdom, a population of 67 million people, with knife attacks very similar to those here in the United States, how many people do you think they killed in 2022? Three. A whole whopping three people. Three. of two of those people had knives. So a country with an immense population, only two of the three people that they killed in the entire year of 2022 had knives. Now let's look at Los Angeles County by itself. Los Angeles County is a population of 10 million people. And for the three people of 67 million in the UK, Los Angeles County had 12. 12 people they killed. Why are the police officers in the United States so dang trigger happy? Why are they so quick to take the lives of the people that they swore to protect? Now, I asked a question at the beginning of this show. I asked, are quote unquote black people more subject to police brutality or being killed by the police than any other nationality? Is this a true thing for us, or is this just something we just made up out the top of our head and just something else for us to whine about, as they would say? Well, according to this report, this is fact. Black people, quote unquote, were more likely in 2002 to be killed by police and more likely to be unarmed and less likely to be threatening someone when killed. So basically, we're more likely to be killed and more likely to be less threatening when we're being killed. So I don't know. It sounds like it's definitely one of them dang if you do, dang if you don't type situations. Because in looking at it, saying you're less likely to be threatening to someone when you kill, it's almost like you should cut the monkey fool, and maybe that'll get your life saved. But in Tyree Nicholas's case, forgive me if I mispronounce his name, that was just crazy, absolutely crazy. Pull over, no charges. He's asking what's going on. No, can you step out the vehicle for a moment? Nothing to that effect. Just immediately jump in, holler, cuss him out, beat him to the ground. Like he ran. But put yourself in that situation. Would you not have run? How scary is that where the police jump out on you? You're asking them, what is it that you did? They're not giving you an answer. Their answer to you is cursing you out and telling you to get on the ground. That doesn't even sound like reasonable procedure. The only time I've ever seen anything like that, if it's like a SWAT type situation. And even with those situations, there's still some announcing of who you are. We coming in, we got a warrant. That's usually in a house. Just a regular traffic stop type situation. Even with that, they stand at a distance. If you're somebody that's wanted, they stand at a distance. Get out the car, go backwards, turn around, step backwards. However they get you to comply, that didn't happen in this case. In this case, they ran full-fledged to this man's car, snatched him out of the car like he was Osama bin Laden and whoever else they look at as public enemy number one. This man is asking questions. Mind you, the police are public servants. So even though we be scared to death if they pull us over, oh, I don't want no ticket, oh, I don't want to deal with the police, that is your employee. So imagine pulling up on your boss in the parking lot, just running up on him or her, slamming them to the ground. They're like, what's going on? Why are you slamming me? And you like, F you, I'm gonna kick your head in, I'm gonna do whatever. Just no respect of anything. He feared for his life, very obviously, and ran. Um, and we know the result of what happened with that. Now, year by year, of course, will kill more than any other nationality. 2022, 26% of police killings were melanated individuals. The greater of the past few years is going to be 2021 and 2019. Both of those years, um, 27%. Now, there's also a large number of Caucasians. The US population is 58% Caucasian. Now, as far as who gets killed more by police, when you strictly look at it by the killings, the numbers themselves, you would think that Caucasians had more of a problem with police than melanated individuals. Now, I spoke of it, I believe it was last episode, intersectionality. Intersectionality is where you take multiple statistics and you cross-reference them so that you can get a more specific view of something. Now, just like with uh prosecutors, how prosecutors, when it came to quote unquote black females, only made up 1% of elected prosecutors, but they made up a greater percentage of individuals that actually prosecuted police officers that were involved in brutality. The same stands for police killings when it comes to melanated individuals. Quote unquote black people make up 12% of the population, yet they make up, as of 2022, 26% of police killings. Now, if you're a mathematician and all that other stuff, that it's an imbalance. How is it that the least, well, not the least, we have other nationalities outside of quote unquote black, Hispanic, and white. They make up 11% of the population. Um, 13% of police killings in 2022. I can't remember what year it was, and this guy actually did not die. But just to show you how other nationalities react, if you remember or are familiar with this, definitely please put it in the chat. Um, I want to say it might have been like maybe a few years ago. There was this Indian guy in Texas, older Indian guy, and he had a situation with the police. It was also caught on police cam, and the police officer body slammed this man on the concrete. It was an elderly man. Body slammed this man on concrete. This man was not an American citizen. He was just over here. Okay. The ruler in India had something to say about this man being slammed on this concrete. Now, my memory fails me on what the result was. And if I'm permitted memory, I will get that information to y'all so y'all can see it yourself. But I found that so like, wow, this man is in a whole nother country, and the ruler of his country is like, y'all can't be doing my citizens like that over there. This is one little elderly man in freaking Texas, but his ruler in India is like, we don't play that, and y'all better do something about this, or there's gonna be consequences. Yet for us, we're killed. Our children are killed. They kill our babies in raids. They kill our babies, taking our babies from us, putting them in foster care situations with people that don't care about them, people that are just there to get a buck. They get a kid equal, I get a payment or a stipend every month. Um, they kill our babies with education. Recently, it was mentioned about the Indians and how the Indians have a lawsuit right now against Canada, and I was privileged enough to speak to someone who actually lived in Canada. Um, I consider moving there myself. Like I really just I don't want to be where in this country, but this is where I am. And I work with it until you who see fit to move otherwise. But they were telling me that in Canada, the Indian was the nigga of Canada, that melanated individuals, quote unquote, black people, actually had it a little bit better than the Indians. The Indian children had been taken from their family. This also happened in Australia. If you've ever heard of the movie or can look into the movie Rabbit Proof Fence, a similar system was set in place in Australia for quote unquote melanated individuals over there. But with the Indians, uh, a part of why I definitely agree if what this person said was accurate, that the education system um, destroyed them as a people and killed them. They were actually punished for speaking their own languages in class. They were anything that they did relative to their culture, they were punished for it. They were placed purposely in Caucasian homes so that they could be brainwashed into that particular culture. In Australia, the situation there was not that they were quote necessarily being placed in Caucasian homes, but they were literally being bred like animals um to get the black out of their blood. They were encouraged to marry and have children with Caucasian individuals to wash out any sign of their melanation and just basically conform to a life as their oppressor because that was taught to be better. And although here, as time progressed, it seems like in some areas, some companies, things of that nature are catering toward melanated individual. I personally, I don't buy it. I went through where was it? I was at Walmart. Walmart has like all of these Afrocentric like pictures and stuff now, and I think Target does too. I think I saw some stuff at Target. I've seen something about my melanin in BJ's. Like, I don't necessarily feel like we're being embraced as much as we're being merchandised. I don't believe that all of a sudden now, I do believe that more people now, um, not that there was a lack then, when you had marches with Martin Luther King, even if you've seen the movie Malcolm X, not to say that that was an exact replica of what happened in his life. I've read the actual autobiography by Alex Haley. That was like one of my favorite reads. I'm kind of old now, so I don't know if I will go back and read it again. But in the movie, there was a young white lady that walked up to Malcolm X and she asked him what she could do to help the movement. And if I remember correctly, he said nothing because his idea of fixing everything was for each individual nationality and people to amongst themselves fix themselves and then understand how to deal with and do business with other nationalities, but not to mix them all together. Because especially when it comes to the quote unquote black person or melanated individual, anytime there's any situation with us that needs a resolve, there's always a white person involved. And I know we kind of deviate away from police brutality a bit, but just to get into like the system of what police brutality is a byproduct of, even in movies, Black Panther. And let me also say this: by no means am I racist in the sense of color of your skin. I do not believe in treating somebody different because of the color of their skin. I believe your pattern of behavior proves who you are, and I make adjustments according to that. But at the same time, I will not lessen my appreciation and pride of my people, and the greatness that is within us, that is merchandise, disrespected, unappreciated. Like, there's a long list of just who we are is not really taken as seriously as it should be in a positive way. It's taken seriously enough to make sure that by any means we're depressed, whether it be within ourselves or our abilities themselves are depressed or blocked. We generally just have to fight harder than the next individual. But I say that to say the images that are projected to our children, as far as them getting an understanding of who they are and taking pride in who they are. Black Panther, right? One of the biggest movies that came out. Everybody was like, "Oh, this all black cast. Oh yes, we are Wakanda. Wakanda forever." And although I wasn't as excited like that, although I was happy to see my people happy, at the same time, it was like this is not even a real person. This, like, everybody have their hope. I'm looking at people, pictures of people at the movie theater, grown people dressed up in costumes to go sit in a movie theater, see this movie, right? So I finally go see it myself on the bootleg, right? And I'm watching it, and the savior of the movie is still a Caucasian guy. Black Panther is who everybody's looking up to. The villain of the movie is actually the quote unquote hero if you listen to his objective. But the entire everything is won by, with the assistance of a white guy. I can't remember exactly what it was he did because it's been a while. I can't remember exactly what it was he did, but what he did was like the victory move that helped everybody else overcome. So everything that's projected to us is that we need someone else to come and save us. Charles Manson, if you're familiar with him, his whole thing was he felt that there would be a race war. So him and all these other hippie white folks was supposed to hide underground until black people won the race war. And then he would submerge, or not submerge, ascend, whatever. He would come from underground and save black people, because although black people in his mind were strong enough to win a race war against whites, they weren't conscious enough to be able to govern themselves, and they would still need a white man to govern them. So I feel that it's sad that we are in this position, and that this is what our children have to look to. Whereas as a child myself, I don't know if anybody else can attest to it. Like I said earlier, the police officer was the one that helped you. For me, up until a certain point, I actually dealt with firsthand police shooting in my own family. Mine was provoked, though. I can be real and say that. When I was younger, I didn't understand it. I did not understand it at all. I just felt like it was a racist type situation, and that they did it because my uncle was black. But no, my uncle put himself in that situation. So the situation, to share and get you a better understanding. He was, I'm not sure if he was married. I can't remember. I was really young. Um, but I'm guessing there was some turmoil in the relationship. So the other end, the lady, his the mother of his children, she went to a battered woman's home, and he didn't know where she was. So he started a whole situation. He went and got people at gunpoint to find out where he was. And they said that his objective basically was he wanted to go and kill himself in front of her. So this is a mental health crisis situation. I'm not sure. From what I found out later on when I got older, I went and did my own research. And of course, I understood it more because I was an adult. I had been in relationships. I understood what quote unquote love could do to your mind. So although I did not agree with what he did and the method of the way he went about it, I understood it a little bit more, and I didn't have as much hate or resentment toward the officer that I did being a young child without having that understanding. Um, but yes, my uncle was killed in a police shooting. He was shot at a decent close range with a sawed-off shotgun. So you're pretty certain, I'm sure, of how that turned out. But at the end of the day, um, this is where we are, and we have to learn to navigate in it, learn how to be more prosperous despite it. I believe that the media is as some of my friends would like to say, an instigator. I believe that they do bait races to fight amongst one another and also amongst other nationalities. For instance, with the Florida situation of the governor there wanted to remove AP African American Studies, and that's all the headline: AP African American Studies. Governor Santos wants nothing to do with it. He's a racist. He doesn't want black people to learn about themselves. Let's picket and protest about something that we know absolutely nothing about. And come to find, once Florida released the I guess that was the syllabus or the points of matter in this AP so-called African American studies, it ends up being queer life. And I think the most valuable thing I learned out of looking at the whole thing was intersectionality. I had never, well, I don't say I had never. When I went to research it, I figured out that I'd actually watched a video on it, but I guess I never studied it to a point where it stuck. Now it sticks because I think it's very valuable. I do believe that statistics are looked at very one dimensionally and they are not stacked to be able to properly understand and deal with things. So I appreciated that. But with all of that being said, I would now like to open up the floor for a little while since this is a live show. And I want to hear what y'all have to say. I saw a few things in the chat. I did see someone found the article about the lady in the railroad track situation. I'm trying to scroll up and see it. And I also saw where you said the numbers are off. Now, I do agree that depending on who it is and what they're looking at, the numbers will definitely not balance, because I remember seeing something else. I was hoping that that person would be listening in, that someone posted, and they were talking about police shootings, and with what they posted, it made it seem like police shootings of quote unquote black people were very minuscule. But what I looked at, it doesn't look like it's very minuscule. So it just depends on who the person is, what they're looking for, and I guess what records they're reviewing at the time, because the numbers depend, like I said, depending on it, it usually don't line up. Even with the mental illness stuff, when we review the top 10, everybody's top 10 is not the same. So when it comes to statistics, it's definitely a matter of opinion for the most part. For the most part, it is definitely a matter of opinion. And what you want to look at, what your bias is, what is it that you're looking for. When it comes to when I look for statistics, I'm just looking for the truth. I'll look at a few different things to see what the common pattern is. And if that pattern proves wrong, I'll just be like, hey, that pattern actually proved me wrong. This is what I thought it was. But according to the numbers, it's really not that. And I can appreciate those moments because I learned something, and I cannot feel so strongly about something in a way if I've looked at it and however I feel is actually inaccurate. So, yeah, with that, these again were numbers from the 2022 Police Violence Report. That's going to be policeviolencereport.org. Helpful information, really easy navigation site, but helpful information. Um, we all we got. We have to be mindful of these things. It's said that you have to kind of carry yourself in a certain way, even with the report that I mentioned earlier, the news report Sean did. Is like you have to teach your children, okay, so when the police pull you over, make sure you keep your hands on the steering wheel. Make sure you don't make any false or fidgety moves. Make sure like it really should just be when the police pull you over, just respect them and treat them like a person, because they should be respecting you and treating you like a person. This should be a simple situation where, hey, you know what I pulled you over for? You were kind of doing something that you shouldn't have been doing. Let's go ahead and get that corrected. Maybe I'll let you free and you just have a nice day, or maybe I won't. Could you sign this ticket, show up in court, fight the ticket, whatever. Just a usual transaction. Being a servant of the law and not an agent of death. Because I don't think many people, I'm not gonna say I don't think anybody, because I'm sure there's somebody who probably does, but I don't think many people grow up like, oh, I want to be a police officer so I can shoot people. And they do, they have a sick mind. And if you've heard this or know of this, please make sure you get that individual, that child, to a place where they can get the help that they need. Um, because yeah, like we have a real bad situation going on with the police, and in this situation, matters are worse, at least to me, because these are people that look like the person that they killed. So at no point did any of these individuals look at this man as a man and see themselves. At no point, at least displayed in their actions, did anyone look at this person, did anyone look at Tyree Nichols and say, hey, he's a black man like me. Hey, we fight the same struggles. I've seen videos where other police officers have been mishandled and treated like an average, as some Caucasians being arrested say, you're treating me like a nigger. We all deal with the same situation. So what is it that you saw in this man that enraged you so much till you beat this man to the point of death? And even in his moaning and pain, just disregarded him. um I'm thankful that the poll camera was there, because I think if the poll camera wasn't there, we wouldn't have as much evidence to be able to kind of be like, yeah, that was off the chain. Not that we didn't see it in the other videos, but in some of the body cam footage, you can kind of tell that the officers were purposely averting their cameras from the situation, even though they weren't completely successful. Something that I watched, they said something I thought, as far as you can hear the officers in the videos kind of making up this story. Yeah, I said such and such, and he did this. And it's like, if you're a complete idiot, and maybe this would work for like Stevie Wonder or someone that was blind, but we sat here and watched this whole video, and everything you're saying, none of this stuff happened in this video. Are you trying to say this to make it seem like this happened off video? um there were other things too, something that's kind of relative but not relative. If you are familiar with procedure for an officer, I noticed that when one of them, I think he got sprayed with pepper spray, because they sprayed Tyree with pepper spray, and he might have gotten it in his eyes too, but he kept hollering out which eye he was asking to be rinsed. If you're familiar with that process and procedure, let me know in the chat so I can understand that better. Is that like a record thing, or how does that work? But none of these men looked at the fact that they were stomping out another black man. Nobody was like, dang, this is my brother, I'm stomping my brother out. They was like, no, F this dude. Stomp this dude out. I think I heard they said even one officer was like, oh, y'all should have stomped him out, or was actually encouraging it. Now, there are rumors now going around that a motive for this situation was that one of the officers, Demetrius, can't remember his last name, he actually was married to the girlfriend of Tyree. That Tyree and this woman, I've seen some cite her as a girlfriend, I've seen some cite her as a wife, that they were actually dating and fooling around, and that this guy was actually targeted. Now, I have not been able to verify that information. I have seen it on multiple sources. Like I said, some sources say it's his girlfriend, some sources say it's his wife. All sources say that he has a child with this woman. So until that fully surfaces, we have nothing. But also, what we have is nothing on why he was pulled over. One thing says he was pulled over for a traffic stop. The report that they wrote the report saying that he was an assault suspect. So they couldn't even get their story together. They said it was a routine traffic stop, but in the report wrote that this man was an assault suspect. He's asking what he did, and no one is telling him. Also, nowhere in the report was where they spent time stomping this man's head in. No one seemed to remember to mention that. Shout out to Bone Thugs, Harmony, Cheech, and Chung in the chat. Nothing to tell this man who they were. I mean, of course, you realize who they are after a while of seeing all the lights disoriented, this whole situation happening so fast around you, but still no explanation. Even when they caught him, even when they finished beating him, nobody at any point said, man, all you had to do was pull over because you was speeding. Or, man, all you had to do was pull over because your tail light was out. This man got yoked out for the root, no reason. Second, because he ran and they just was out of shape and fat. He made them actually work. Third, because he decided to not give him their hand. Officer pulls out a baton. I'm gonna beat your ass with this baton. I'm gonna baton the F out of you, a baton the S out of you, cussing this man out. And gave him not nan charge. That's the world we live in, folks. That's where we are in this world. Now, as far as just everyday life, I say hobby your babies, be mindful of your surroundings, Tahala Yahuwah, that even though we deal with what we deal with, these situations have not been you. Um, there are a lot of women. Maybe we could talk about that another time too. A lot of women involved in police killings. I can think of at least, I can see them in my mind. Sadly, I can't remember their name. Sandra Bland, of course, is one. Breonna Taylor is another popular one people speak about. There was another lady though that I'm familiar with. I want to say her name isn't, it might be Rashida or something to that effect. She had a mental health situation. Um, she was killed while she was in jail. So many killed, disregarded, and because for the most part, if you tune into Flourish Girl Flourish Sunday nights at 8 o'clock p.m. right here on ZMR Radio, last episode we had Mr. Chris Causey who brought up the average net worth of a black person. I remember a while ago somebody else, I was trying to find that night too. They mentioned the average net worth of a black person. I believe it was like negative. It was like either like it was less than like $50 or it was negative, like the average person. So imagine that the average melanated individual with a negative net worth or less than $50. I think with what Chris said, it might have been like 1,500, which was like, wow, we balling now. And that was just exclusive to LA. So $1,500 in LA. If you ever been to California, I mean, you ain't balling. $1,500 is nothing in LA. $1,500 right now is really, I ain't gonna say it's nothing because I could show you $15. If you got $1,500 and you feel like it's nothing, then you can go and give it to me where I can make it something. But yeah, that in combination with you locked up, you got to find somebody to bind you out. They like to say that these people kill themselves. We may never know until judgment, but I will say the common denominator in all of it is the police. Y'all hands are in it, and we don't benefit from it. So y'all permit there'll be some changes. Maybe with this, the chief of Memphis is formerly the chief of Atlanta. I've seen some stuff about her as well. She was supposedly the chief of Atlanta Police Department when Kathy Johnston was killed. The task force that killed Kathy Johnston, this sheriff or police chief was aware of and signed off on. And there may have been another situation that she was involved with. Basically, scandal is what got her out of Atlanta and sent her to Memphis. So, what were her motives for moving as fast as she did? Was it a situation of, hey, I'm not finna lose this job over no foolishness? Y'all Negroes got to eat this one. Or was it a genuine concern and a sincere approach to start um, making a difference in how police move, making an example of her own people. Now, I know that there are some people that be like, it's always a woman that take a black man down. These jokers brought this on themselves. This is not a situation with a black woman taking no black men down, nothing to that effect. There are a total of now 7 officers that have been relieved of duty, 5 of which have been charged. I'm not sure the last 2, because the last 2 they've only fired within the past 24 hours. I don't know. Their identities have not been revealed as of yet. Not sure if they'll receive any charges, but this is definitely, despite whatever the reason is, the fastest there has been any quote unquote justice toward police brutality to the melanated man, woman, or anyone. And hopefully, as they would say, it's the turning of a corner into consistency of holding people accountable for what they do. I'm sure there will be another police shooting, police killing. There may have already been one, and it's just not high profile. But when the next high profile one comes, let's see how fast there's an answer to code 3. And now it's time for Zamar. Today we have lyrics from Mr. J. Rich. Shout out to the Bishop, him, and Be Breezy with Paradise. Like my forefathers, Abraham, Jacob, I gotta go. As far away as I can be from America, this is not my home. Forced us to labor, enslaved us. These gods gave us these gods. Now these things we do regret. Got this student debt and college loans. Moved into parts unknown. Brought in on slave ships. Heritage stolen. Memory faded. I'm like, wow, how we sitting complacent, trading lifestyle for the rich and the famous. Higher institutes of education got our women brainless. How longer will we be patient with this wicked generation of these Christians and atheists, preachers looking like Malachi of light? Really, they ministers of sin, false apostles, teaching philosophies of Aristotle. So, chapter 14 of the verse of the book is fitting because everybody we live in, we still losing men. Every day we live in, we still losing men. At the hands of these cops, black men shot up on the news again. Land of the free, man, please, you on hallucinogens. Looking to take a flight to my paradise, Jerusalem. Thank you. Hadu for your listening ear. Wisdom Simone, and this has been my Candid Wisdom.
Like my forefathers, Abraham, Jacob, I gotta go as far away as I can be from America. This is not my home. Forced us to labor, enslaved us, gave us these gods of gold. Now these things we do regret, got the student debt and college loans. Moved into parts unknown, brought in on slave ships. Heritage stolen, memory faded. I'm like, wow, how we sitting complacent, chasing the lifestyle of the rich and the famous. Higher institutes of education got our women brainless. How longer will we be patient with this wicked generation? generation of these Christians and atheists. Preachers looking like Malachi of light. Really, they the ministers of Satan, false apostles, teaching philosophies of Aristotle. So chapter 14, verse 11 of Yahoo is fitting. Cause every day we living, we still losing men at the hands of these cops. Black men shot up on the news again. Land of the free, man, please, you on hallucinogens. Looking to take a flight to my paradise.
I'm trying to get away from here. I'm so sick of this world, y'all take us away from here. Jerusalem is where my father's life. Take me back home to my paradise. I don't want your gods, I don't want your lies. Jerusalem's where I'm from, so that's where my heart must lie. I don't want your gods, I don't want your lies. Jerusalem's where I'm from, so that's where my heart must lie. This world is out of the question. Can't trust these people for nothing. Am I wrong to wanna get away from them? Am I wrong to not wanna pray for them? They sold us so many lies, told us it's paradise, but this place is full of crap. But we're not finna roll no dice. I take a chance to be stuck here forever. Heard someone say this place gonna get better. Now while they out Houdin walk among it, they won't see peace until we far from it. Even then, what they gon' do when the Most High burn it? Everything they done, they got coming, they deserve it. Everything they done, they got coming, they deserve it. I don't want your gods, I don't want your lies. Take me back home to my paradise. I'm trying to get away from here. I'm so sick of this world, y'all take us away from here. Jerusalem is where my father's life. Take me back home to my paradise. I don't want your gods, I don't want your lies. Jerusalem's where I'm from, so that's where my heart must lie. I don't want your gods, I don't want your lies. Jerusalem's where I'm from, so that's where my heart must lie.
Internet news today, yet another brother dead in the streets. Another news report, more protests, bloodsucker vain words than retreat. More of our blood left crying in the heat with no hesitation. They killing our kids, saying self-defense, but different accounts of video evidence. In these streets it's mad TV, but funny, it ain't no laughing matter. The bullets that shatter families, past used to assassinate character, hands up, no defense, discriminates on offense, laying us even with the ground, no second thought, cause no recompense. They say our stance is militant when we say Black Lives Matter, but the fact I have to tell you confirms you do not gather the importance of our lives upon this surface. You claim inferior, slaughtered cause the sight of royal complexion puts fear in you. Why you on this planet we inhabit, the four corners, imprisoned for resistance of abuse. The modern noose is service issue. They blues once colored as tissue, sentenced towards the vessels of needles, piercing bloodlines for generations. They saying hold three, hold three, hold three, hold three, hold three, hold three, code 3. They saying it's a code 3, another 187C for my people. They seeking evil. Why won't they just let us be? They saying code 3, code 3, code 3, code 3, code 3, code 3, code 3. They claiming it's a code 3, another 187C for my people. They seeking evil. Why won't they just let us be? They saying
hold up, I don't get it, I don't understand. Ain't this supposed to be the promised land? Or the free home of the brave, by what they say, but yet it's still our Sandra Bland. Can't even switch lanes in the street without being brought down to a jail cell, hanged by police. And Eric couldn't garner one breath just to breathe off of selling cigarettes. That's strange to me. If I ain't no better, it's more than enough evidence to fight what they saying we paying the fee of letting our hands rest on robbers and hunters and other transgressions of our fathers and mothers. I own these sown and I see that seed grown, and if you ain't even know that harvest upon us, cause we ain't reaping nothing but repercussions. That people wonder if we really love us, why does y'all keep us coming? We all in the gutters, these cops in civilian gunners. And if we minorities, we should all see these numbers of the killing and blood spilling on a decrease. But it seems stuck on a repeat. And it don't matter how many attacks from cops done to black, we keep running back to grab what we lack. We seek a bigger piece of American retreats when they think that we should just stop and retreat. Turn back to the Abba, rethink who it is that keeps us afloat or we sink. We come before his throne, he holds his nose, though we don't think so. We should know, yo, we stink. Release the hope that we have in inauguration. Don't even rock to prove it's just abomination. Put the faith in the nation and rapes and haters. Got to know to complain and pray that they save.
Code 3, code 3, code 3, code 3, code 3, they saying it's a code 3, another 187C for my people, they seeking evil. Why won't they just let us be? They saying code 3, code 3, code 3, code 3, code 3, they claiming it's a code 3, another 187C for my people, they seeking evil. Why won't they just let us be? They saying.
Have y'all seen the video of that boy getting shot down? It breaks your heart. And no remote, I could have looked at the fact that he looked at, I don't even want to go around it. I snapped in a moment. I can't look at that man in his face. I just shot that man and gunned him down. And Seth had nothing. Somebody just seen him videotaping the fella from the bush. Got everything on tape. And the only time you got remorse is when you've been caught. That don't bother y'all. How many white boys we got loose out here with these guns? Won't they let somebody call them and break this thing down to the lowest common denominator get folk? We all human beings. Nobody made themselves. Nobody picked these colors in a lineup. You gotta love and respect people. Because we all just human beings.
Radio station on the planet.
CMR Radio.
The #1 internet radio station.
I'm at work right now and I'm listening to it.
#1.
I wake up with you guys, I spend my day with you guys, and I go to bed with you guys. You guys are the best.
The #1 internet radio station.
CMR Radio.
salad, getting stuck up like a javelin, hitting high notes like a ballad. You clearly see the agenda they been pushing to you. Yeah, let raise my son to be your husband, my daughter to be your wife. If you telling me something different, I tell you a waste of life. I never accepted as normal, on that I was just some money. If I could ask you one question, why you niggas so demonic? Attempting to shake the maker, change the way that he created. I see intelligence faking, how you gon' shake up the making? And if you think I'm tired of serving, I don't know where you heard it. Well, basically this is something that you don't really know about me. Yahoo was a boy, wine to the God. Got my head up, screaming Yahoo-dee. I'm reppin' it, yeah. 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 I'm reppin' it, hootie. This song is made for the praise and worship of Yahuwah through his son, Yahushua HaMashiach.
Even in the land of the cruel one, I adore him who don't lose. Yahushua HaMashiach, the re-sprout, the noon, the olive in the tube, the true root of Daoud. You abiding in that vine? Let's examine them fruit. But you say you're kin to us. You don't know the true us. You don't shama to the shofar, the sound of the teruah, or the kato surah. You don't know the Torah. You can't even be a ben of Hagar or Keturah. You say, man, I'm your people. I say, like my uncle Laban. You say, now I'm a Yehuda, the one that was a traitor. You say you're looking out. I ain't asking for no favor. You'll come friendly to that table and switch up on me later. I mark you like a marker. Zakar, record it. When I catch it down bad, you're gonna be sorry. My Ori, the moral of the story. Recognize the beast mode. Wolves out here, they come clothed in sheep's clothes.
And this goes out to those bold prophets with your roles that talk the talk of those shows who was sent before, yet you still don't fit the mold. And it's been shown who you are with your deeds exposed. You can't hide your secrets anymore, nor the lies told. I just throw them away, cause I don't need those. So beware wolves that come in sheep's clothes.
We got a wizard sipping liquor in a pot house. Our congregation still born in a rotten house. Spitting venom with a cotton mouth. She old, they said them pedophilia forgotten about. Innocent children fall prey to a religion where the predator become a victim. I won't forgive them, I'm Yehudi, not a Christian. My duty say I gotta condemn them. Judgment executed, identify them as sinners. See, only a criminal justify another criminal and testify. It's also subliminal, confessing their lies. They homosexual molesters who undress you with eyes. And you can't help but see the split between the breasts and the thighs. Claiming they prophesy like the war, blaming lies like Sodom and Gomorrah. They despise the Torah. It's detailed and describing the whoredom, abomination and desolation to hide behind a robe in the podium.
And this goes out to those bold prophets with your roles that talk the talk of those shows who was sent before, yet you still don't fit the mold. And it's been shown who you are with your deeds exposed. You can't hide your secrets anymore, nor the lies told. I just throw them away, cause I don't need those. So beware wolves that come in sheep's clothes.
Benjamin Banneker gave you the clock. Now all crackers do is yell freeze and stop. Thomas W. Stewart, he gave you the mop. Now crackers want your face down, Molly and Whopped. Oldest working lifesaver with a pacemaker. Knuckle draggers tell lies, passion of the filmmaker. Crackers play for keeps, you don't hear peeps. Civil rights semen on your head and it's by the heaps. Gary Morgan for the